Hello, yes, that's right. It's Joe Rider TV back once again with some live Q&A here on Joyrider TV. As always, one thing that YouTube doesn't let you do is have a preview of what this is going to look like, which is why it usually takes a couple of minutes when I first start to get things looking a little bit juicier, ready for what is about to come. It's not easy. Hey, all right, Ollie, how you doing, man? Just trying to get me lighting in the correct vicinity. Ollie Smith, of course, one of the key instructors from the Wildwind team. Yeah, let me know if the audio is coming through all right as well. That would be very handy. I have got some degree of control on the levels, but of course I don't really know. I'm just in the dark here. All right, Ben, how you doing? Missing the cat a little bit more this morning. Minus 30 in Minnesota. Oh my goodness, that is flipping chilly. It's actually been pretty warm here in Vasiliki because the wind is from the south, which means you could be outside just in a t-shirt and a pair of shorts. Yeah, which makes me feel very lucky. Thanks for that confirmation there, Ollie. Good to hear that it's good to hear. Right, we've got Top Cat K2 on board as well. Will you be looking into handling foiling catamarans single-handed in the new season? I would absolutely love to. It is something that I've had, well, since the foiling catamarans have become pretty well widespread. I've been really keen to get involved there. The only problem with making the videos with the foiling catamarans is the lack of foiling catamarans that I have got available. So as soon as I am able to get out on some foiling catamarans, you can be assured that there will be foiling catamaran videos coming thick and fast. And it's snowing in Germany. All right. Yeah. Oh, I feel very lucky, but it's quite warm here. We're actually expecting a bit of wind here tomorrow as well. So hopefully I'll be getting out on the water. It'll be on the kite, not on the sailing boat, just because of the lack of sailing boats available at this time. All right. So as always with the Q&A, this is being recorded live on a Friday afternoon, Greek time. This will be available, of course, to watch afterwards. If you are watching this later on, then I won't be able to respond to your questions in the live video, but I will get back to you either in the comment section, like that's me typing, or in next week's Q&A live. I will get back to you on there. Ollie says it's snowing in Canada too. Oh my goodness, Ollie's in Canada. Hope you're having a lovely time. Jan Leo, when can we expect the first Speed Stick 22 video? Yeah, that is a good question. Jan Leo is currently sitting at the top of the new leaderboard on the Speed Stick for the 22 season. He sent me a very good video of some tornadoes sailing in Germany and deserving that top spot. So it's everybody else's job who is able to get out sailing at the moment to get out and see if they can dislodge Jan Leo from the top of the Speed Stick. I'm not going to tell you what his top speed was. You'll have to go and have a look to find that out. And while you're over there, you could get yourself a woolly hat if it's pretty chilly. And yes, we do deliver to Canada. All right, Kurosh, how you doing? All sunny and pleasant in Dubai. Perfect sailing conditions. Nice. Glad to hear it. You'd hope so in Dubai, but it's not snowing there at least. That would be something is seriously amiss. Any thoughts? What foiling catamaran would you be interested in? That's a very good question, actually. I think there's a few different ones that are tickling me. The most obvious, of course, is the NACRA 17, it being the Olympic class. And I think the most widely sailed double-handed foiling catamaran in the world at this time. That would be really good to get hold of one of those and see what makes it work, how the crew dynamics work, who does what, and see how fast we could make it go. But the one that I'm, for me, mostly interested in getting hold of would be an A-class. I've been after an A-class for a very long time, or at least a go on one, but it's not the sort of boat you just get a go on because they are quite fragile. And the problem with me getting one here is that because they're so fragile, I'd have to be very restrictive with it for who I could let use it, because otherwise it wouldn't last very long. Yeah, so those would be the top two. But the other one that I was really keen on getting was the foiling version of the F-16 Viper from Goodall Designs. The Viper from Goodall Designs is available as a convertible, which means you can sail it as a straight F-16 Formula 16 catamaran with the normal foils, or you can put in different inserts for the dagger boards, swap over the rudder blades, and then you've got a fully foiling bad boy catamaran ready to go extremely quick. There we go. All right. So, Jan Leo says it will be beaten soon enough. I think you'll be, yeah, it might even be beaten by yourself. There we go. There's a challenge to yourself. All right, we've got Vinicius who says Hobie 14 with turbo kit sails well? Question. Sails very well. The thing with the Hobie 14 turbo kit or not is it's a very weight responsive and dependent boat. It's not a particularly good choice if you're in the heavier category, let's say. I'd say if you are over 85 kilograms, and that's being quite generous, I would say the Hobie 14, unless it's really windy, isn't going to provide the sort of high octane performance that you might be looking for out of the catamaran. You'd be better off getting something with a bit more volume, such as a Prindle 15, much more volume in the hulls, a Dart 15. Also, yeah, just looking at whose was it? Lee's Dart 15 and Ewan's Dart 15 in the last episode of Show Us Your Cat. And it is a type of boat that does get left out a little bit on Joyrider TV, just because I haven't got one to show. But the Dart 15 is a really good choice of single-handed catamaran. It's got more volume than the Hobie 14. It's more forgiving, but it's got the fiberglass hulls with the skegs, which make it perform really well, and it's quite easy to handle as well compared to the asymmetric hulls of the Prindles and the Hobie, of course. So the Dart 15, very good choice as well, and will carry a bit more weight than the Hobie 14. The Dart 15 also works better as a double-handed boat as well because of that extra volume. I'm just all about the Dart 15 today. I woke up this morning thinking I'm all about the Dart 15, as I'm sure is Chris there in Texas. Morning. Just woken up thinking of Dart 15s. It's quite unlikely, but who can say? So thanks to everybody for tuning in. I have, as always, got some pre-loaded questions. If you're not able to make it to the session live and you would like to preload some questions, like I said, leave it in the comments below or comment on any video on Joyrider TV with a question. And if the question is suitable and not just a one-word answer, then I will respond to your question in next week's Q&A. There we go. All right, let's have a look and see what we've got. Yeah, this is one that I've kind of a preloaded question that I've stolen from the Hobie Cat Class UK Facebook page because I thought it was quite interesting. And this is from Matthew, who says, I've got the opportunity to buy a decent Hobie Tiger. And I know it's controversial, but I'd like to put wings on it for family sailing. Wings on a Tiger. Firstly, is it even possible? Well, what we can have a look at first is, if you're not familiar with what we're talking about when we're talking about wings on a catamaran, is if we take a look, this would be looking at the boat from behind. There's a beam, doesn't matter which one. And then what the wings would look like would be basically like a metal bar that comes out here, and it's like a metal frame, like this sort of shape with some, obviously we need some structure in there, and then it would have a mesh top to it, much like a trampoline. And then for stability, I believe this will come with another bar here to give it a bit more strength to the structure. Now, let's quickly get in there with the straightforward answer. Is it possible to put wings on a Tiger? Answer, yes, because the Tiger has got, apart from the actual shape of the hulls, it's got exactly the same platform as the Hobie Pacific. One of the optional extras on the Hobie Pacific was wings with, or I don't know if they called the Magnum wings, but if they're not, they're similar to Magnum wings that you would have got on one of the classic Hobie 18s. But yes, the wings were available for the Hobie Pacific. And just to get into a bit of detail, if we look from the top at the back beam, top view, let's do a simplified traveler track. This would be the traveler track. And then what you'd have on the back beam would be like a piece like this, like a bit of U-shaped box, or a bit of three-sided box, let's call it, in aluminium. And then that would fit basically here and here. And then that would be attached by the bolts, which actually hold the boat together. This still gives plenty of range for the traveler car. This is not to scale, this picture. And then the actual, very easy to fit, very secure. But all right, so pros and cons of having wings on your boat. Now, firstly, with the positives of putting the wings on the boat, like Matthew said, he wanted to use the boat for family sailing. Absolutely brilliant to put the wings on the boat for family sailing, because what the wings do, as well as adding this extra bit of trampoline space out here, so you've actually almost doubled your floor plan, if you like, of the boat with where you can sit. but it also provides a bit of a barrier. If you're sailing with younger kids, then having this wing here means that the small children are less likely to disappear into the water off the side of the boat. It's putting like a guard at the side. Very good for security. Then what else is good? It gives you so many more seating options. You could carry more people on the boat. Of course, the Hobie Tiger, like with the Hobie Pacific, it's got very high volume hulls. So it will carry a good amount of weight. I would say you could probably, even in a light wind, still tickle along nicely with about 200 kilos. She'll still tickle along nicely. Yeah, so that's nice as well. And then you've got more choice of where you can sit. The obvious is, of course, to sit here. Really nice sitting position, very comfortable. If you were going to be undertaking quite a long passage, so sailing for a long time, it would certainly be more comfortable sitting up there than it would be sitting on the hull with your feet in front of you in the normal position. So this is a win on seating. If you were really wanting to up the amount of comfort that you've got on there, this is the absolute winner. Let's say really hot day, not very much wind. You can sit here, normal position, and you're using the wing as a backrest. Lovely. Maybe with a cold drink. Very nice. Yeah, so those are all winners. Other winners, can we draw one on here as well? Other winners that we've got with the wings is we can trapeze off the wings, meaning that we've got tremendous amount of leverage there, so we can really keep the power on a lot more, which if there wasn't any issues with the amount of load that the boat can take, it would mean that we could go faster because we can keep the power on more. Nice. The wings are also, and I think this will be the last one, a really good place for storing things. If you want somewhere to store a paddle just tied under the wing, nice. Somewhere to put your things that you don't necessarily want to get wet, you could put them in a dry bag strapped to the top of the wing and so on. There's a lot of positives for the wings. Now, the downsides of the wings, I would say, in my opinion, is firstly, the weight. These wings are pretty heavy, and I would, just at a guess, I would say they'll probably be adding about 30 kilos. Is that a bit much? Let's stick with that. They'll probably be adding somewhere in the region of about 30 kilograms to the boat, which does make it significantly heavier. Next one, if it's windy, they do add a bit of windage as well. So although potentially you could go faster by having more weight outboard, at the same time, the extra windage, you're not necessarily going to go that much quicker on the upwind point of sail. So that's number two. What would be number three? It makes the boat a lot bigger as well, which, yes, it's a positive, but it could be seen as a negative as well, especially when it comes to managing the boat on land. If you've got a tight space, perhaps not much boat parking. But having said that, if boat parking was an issue, with this system, you could just move the back bolt, loosen this one, and then pivot the wings upwards so the boat isn't actually that much wider. And the last one for this particular instance, where Matthew's looking for wings for a Hobie Tiger, these are going to be fairly difficult to find. I would go to the main importers of Hobie Cat because they're the people who are going to know who bought them off them, if you know what I mean. And that way you're more likely to find where you might be able to find a set. Nice. All right. So there we go. That is some wing stuff. And then actually the final one with the Tiger, if we did go for double trapezing on wings with, let's say you've got two stout gentlemen on board weighing in at 440 pounds for everybody in America, then that is going to put a heck of a lot of load on your foils. And the dagger boards and the rudders on the Tiger, like with the Pacific, they're not bomb proof. If you give them too much juice, you could break them. I'll just leave that there. Thank you. All right, so that was everything about wings. Okay, so, oh yeah, Venetia says, back to the Hobie 14 chat, he's 70 kilos. I think it will be great fun, and it's a great choice. And one of the great things with the Hobie 14 is that in theory, there'll be a lot of them about. So if you are looking for a second-hand boat, a Hobie 14 is quite likely to be one that you're able to find. There you go. All right, Top Cat K2 says, what do you think of a Dart 16 as a single-handed catamaran in terms of speed as compared to other 16-foot catamarans? Yeah, you can't... the Dart 16, great boat for the purpose. It's not going to be the quickest out there because of the construction. The Dart 16 has got a really, really good hull shape based on the Spitfire, which was a 16-foot, kind of like an F-18, but 16-foot, but not as an F-16, if that makes any sense at all. It was designed a long time before the F-16 class came along, and the Dart 16's got the same hull shape, although it's got the skeg hulls, but it's made of the plastic, this roto-molded plastic boat, which means it's not as stiff and it'll be heavier. So the potential for the really high speeds is a bit less than the fiberglass boats are always going to have the highest potential for speed because the fiberglass is lighter and stiffer than the plastic. It's the truth. But as far as a great boat to have zero maintenance, keep it on the beach, just chuck it in the water whenever you've got a minute, really fun sailing, then I'd say the Dart 16 also is a winner. You definitely, with a Dart 18 or a Dart 15, you can't have one of those bad boys on the beach and just shove them in because the skeg hull on the fiberglass Dart catamarans is notoriously delicate. And if you even look at it wrong, you'll put a chip in it. So let's just see if we can. Right, shape of the bow is a little bit off, but never mind. So when we're talking about the skeg hull, we're talking about this would be what we'd call the skeg, which on a Dart 18 or 15, quite fragile. Dart 16, you're going to do more damage to the beach than you're going to do to your skeg hull. So off you go, a very good choice. All right, we've got Toot on board in Texas. Morning, Texas. Great to have you on board, Toot. Chris says, thinking of the next regatta I'm planning. Oh, I think you have to tell us more there, Chris. Where and when? Let's get some more people to that event. Hoping that everybody in the US knows about the 50th anniversary Prindle American Championship. So at the start of June, they're hoping to get 50 boats there, any type of Prindle. If you don't have a Prindle, maybe it's time to get yourself an old used Prindle. Keep looking on Craigslist, eBay, on Facebook Marketplace. Get yourself an old Prindle, go to the event, do the event. And if you decide that you don't want to keep the Prindle, you'll be able to sell it very easily, because these are great boats. There we go. And we've got Ron on board in Florida. Hello. Nice to have you with us. We've got MJ. I have acquired a Hobie 16 with the spinny setup, spinnaker kit. How does the 16 handle with the spinnaker, and is it worth rigging up with the spinny? I sail off the west coast of France. All right, I would say if you haven't done much Hobie 16 sailing already, I would leave, perhaps for the first couple of sails at least, leave the spinnaker kit off. It's not a massive task to fit the spinnaker kit once the boat is rigged. The only thing that you'll need to do, which is a bit of it's not even that much of a pain, but you'd either have to, I think the best way would be to tip the boat onto its side. I've done a video on how to tip your boat onto its side safely on land. Yeah, that is the only thing which is the juicier bit of fitting a spinnaker kit to a boat which hasn't got a spinnaker kit on. But so if you're not used to sailing a Hobie 16, then yes, leave the spinnaker kit off the boat, get used to sailing the boat with 2 sails first before adding another element to the picture. But I would say for long distance sailing, or if you're sailing in light winds, basically anything other than class racing when having a spinnaker won't be legal, or if you're sailing just heavy winds blasting, like the sort of thing that we do out here at Wild Wind, then leave the spinnaker kit off. But if any other situation, long distance sailing, light winds, if you're doing perhaps some mixed fleet racing in lighter winds, then the spinnaker is going to add a lot of interest. But I would say get used to sailing the boat with 2 sails before putting the spinnaker on there. There you go. But great job there, MJ. Glad you've got yourself a 16. Toot says, Toot in Texas, I sailed on a Prindle 18 and was stiff the next day. Wings on a getaway and 17, no problems, no stiffness. I am old. All right, there we go. There's the proof that the wings are good. If perhaps, you know, if you're slightly less mobile, perhaps got a bad knee or something, wings, very good. Toot likes wings. All right, Loyal says, is the Sprint 15 the same as the Dart 15? Yes, the Sprint 15 is basically I don't know why the name changed. It might have been for legal reasons, like it has been with the Laser, but the Laser is no longer called the Laser. Ridiculous, I know. But the Sprint 15 is just the new name for the Dart 15. Before it was the Dart 15, it was called the Spark. Same boat, different name, slightly different insignia on the mainsail. But yes, same boat. There we go. Jose. Hi, Jose. Yeah, sorry about the late start. By the way, the 5:30 Greek time start is going to be normal from now. It's just my scheduling wasn't working so well, and it just meant I had a bit more time to get organized for a 5:30 start. But yes, I am in Greece. I'm in Joyrider TV studios, deep in the heart of Vasiliki on the island of Lefkas, where it's not too bad. Right, MJ says, wings are the way to go. I have them on my Hobie 18 formula. Tape up. Oh, here we go. This is a top tip. Tape up the rear wing legs to protect the lower main sheet block. There you go. Top tip there from MJ. And I would say, having read that, the bit that I was saying about get used to the Hobie 16 before fitting the spinnaker, don't worry about that so much. Just depends on the situation. But yeah, it's going to add, if you're just out back to spinnaker kit on the Hobie 16, if you are just going out free sailing, let's call it, recreational sailing, not racing, and it's not double trapeze conditions, then yes, put the spinnaker kit on. Perhaps you could actually do a little bit of slight modification to the spinnaker kit, which would make it a lot quicker to fit it and then take it off if it was going to be really windy. So you could leave the spinnaker in the chute, change the shackles for some little clips on the end of the bridle wires on the spinnaker pole, that sort of thing. Just thinking out loud, as always. All right. Chris in Texas says, here we go. This is one for your diary. It's the Midwinters at Seabrook Sailing Club, February 26th and 27th. So if you're in Texas and you fancy a bit of competition, you could either get in touch with Chris on here or on the any of the Facebook pages that everybody's using, then get in touch or visit Texas City Dyke Beach Cats Facebook page. I should give that page a like or a follow or whatever it is you do right now. All right, we got Vic in Quanti Trading. Hi, how you doing? Great to have you on board. Glad you could make it. I believe this is your first time in the live chat, and we welcome you as a community. Thanks for coming. All right. Toot says, Joe, have you heard of the Texas 200, which is 5 days on the coast? I haven't heard of that actually, but it sounds very good and the sort of thing that I would certainly be keen to get involved with. So I haven't heard of it, but yes, we want to hear more. Is it something that still goes on year on year kind of thing, or is it something from the past? All right, G. Lou says, thanks to your content, it's given me the confidence to buy an old Prindle 16. Great stuff. Glad that you've got yourself a catamaran Prindle 16. Great choice. If you're in the USA, get to the 50th anniversary in Texas if it's feasible. And that's what Chris said as well. And great. So good that more people are getting into cat sailing. All right. Every year in June is the Texas 200. So there we go. All right. Where are we up to? We've been going 35 minutes. Let's reel in the next preloaded question. And this one is from Morgan. This is quite a juicy one. This is about clothing. Morgan says, do you have any suggestions or recommendations for what kind of wetsuit or top with pants to wear when sailing a Hobie 16 in cool weather in the West Florida area, specifically in the Gulf of Mexico, where the winters are cool but not super cold? He always ends up with bruises and cuts on his knees, shins. Need to find something that will be good for cool weather Hobie sailing, but also provide a lot of protection for knees and shins. All right, Very good question. Yeah, so there are different styles and types of wetsuits for different temperatures and applications. Now there is, should we just get straight to the point? Yes, let's get straight to the point. What common wetsuit thicknesses? So what I think you want is either what's called a summer suit, which would be a wetsuit which has got long legs and short arms, because a summer suit would usually be a 3-2, which means the neoprene rubber is 3 millimeters thick on the core parts of your body, like over here, but 2 millimeters thick on your arms and your legs, which make it easier to move around and less restrictive. So a 3-2 summer suit, summer suit would be a very good choice, because you could use that in the warmer conditions as well. It will give you all that protection that you need for your legs and your knees. Catamaran sailing is absolutely brutal to your knees, so the summer suit really should be the friend of the catamaran sailor because of that protection that it offers. But it's not such a hot suit, so when it is getting a bit colder, you could combine it with a wetsuit top, which you could put underneath it. Wetsuit top being like, these come in all sorts of thicknesses up to about 2 mil. But if you had a 2 millimeter wetsuit top, which was long sleeves underneath your 3-2, that would be pretty warm. And then if it still wasn't warm enough, you could then put a spray top over the top. Lovely. That would be very nice. The other option I would say would be to get a full suit, maybe a 3-2 or a 3-4. So that would be 4 mil, 3-4. A full suit, which would be a lot warmer. I actually use a 3-4 in the winter here. The water temperature is usually all right, but if it's windy from the north, the wind chill can be a little bit much. So a little bit more warmth is nice. But basically, with any suit that you're buying, the better quality wetsuit you can get, it's going to be warmer. If you get a really cheap, like for example, if you get a really cheap 3-4, it's going to be the same amount of warmth as a really high-end 3-2. The benefit of having the high-end 3-2 is it's going to be more comfortable, more flexible. It won't be as restrictive, and it will feel more like you're not wearing anything apart from the fact that you're not displaying everything, and you feel a bit warmer and better protected. So there you go. That is what I would say about wetsuit choice. I'm just on the verge of needing to get myself a new wetsuit. So if anybody's watching who wants to send me a wetsuit, then please get in touch. Thank you. All right, back to the live chat. All right, Chris said, Chris has sent me an invite to the pages. Nice. All right, we've got Simon B on board. Hi, Simon. Great to have you with us. Simon is sailing a Hobie 18 on a smallish lake in Bavaria, Germany. Can't wait for the season to start. Yeah, I think that is quite a common thing at the moment at this time of year. Everybody is looking forward to getting out there on the water, myself included. I'm thinking start of March, maybe I'll get my first boats out. I'll get out definitely a 16, Hobie 14, and maybe a foiling laser, because I can. I have got the best job in the world. and I am very grateful of the position where I am. All right, we've got Lee on board. Lee has got a 1982 Hobie 18 with a heavy aluminium mast. I do not have a bob for it, so I was wondering if you could recommend for writing if it tips over. Probably sailing by myself. Yeah, these the heavy aluminium mast which you are talking about is the same as the European versions of the boats. I'm guessing that maybe you're in the US, and if you are, then a lot of the boats have these masts which have got the composite top section, which makes them a lot lighter and a lot easier to write, whereas the European boats all have just straight aluminium sections, which are a lot heavier, does make them more difficult to write. Now, for those of you who've been watching Joyrider TV for a bit, you will know that I'm a big fan of the writing bag, which can be manufactured fairly inexpensively. I think I've got links to it on my Amazon storefront, like these big garden waste bags, green ones with the sturdy handles. Those are ideal because they carry a lot of weight. They're strong enough, they're really cheap, and granted, they will leak a little bit of water, but not too much. So when we're talking about the bag, if we've got our capsized boat, I know this might be old news for some of you. Capsized boat, our normal method would be to get the writing line over the top hull, and we'd be standing on the bottom hull holding the rope. And then if there was two of you on board, or if there was a lot of wind, then we'd be able to pull the boat up like that. But if you're sailing solo and it's not particularly windy, like let's say less than 15 knots, you are going to find it very difficult to right the boat single-handed. Perhaps not even difficult, perhaps impossible might be the better word. So with the writing bag, the one that I use carries 50 kilos of water. I'm about 90 kilos, which I think the maths then state that brings the overall weight up to about 140, probably about 130 with spillage. And then what we do with the writing bag is we actually attach a line to the writing line, and then the writing bag goes over the shoulder and is just here, and it makes you heavier. That is the kind of nuts and bolts of it. I have done a really good video on using the writing bag. The other popular method is one that, again, regular visitors may know how many times I've failed trying to build one of these, but using a writing pole where you'd have some sort of pole that it looks like the method that works. You have a pole that comes out here. The longer it is, the more leverage you're going to have. And that pole will be supported, of course, with lines. And then you just go and stand on the end of the pole. And then, of course, that amount of leverage is really going to bring the boat up very quickly. So there you go. There you go. But for general tips on writing the capsize, I've made a lot of videos on capsize writing technique. I would suggest taking a look at one of those because they'll go through the whole procedure from inverted as well. So there we go. Hope that works, Lee. How do you pronounce that? Macon, Georgia, USA. All right, we've got Scott dropping in. Just jumping in a bit late, no problem. Very good. And Joris, who I'm guessing is either, he must be in Holland or perhaps Belgium, have been sailing for a while, but found your channel yesterday. And I'm now stoked because of your videos. Great. Don't have a question, but wanted to wish you a nice day. Can't wait to try it. Excellent stuff. Great to have you on board, Joris. If there's anything you'd like to see, same for everybody, of course, anything you'd like to see on Joyrider TV that I'm able to do, then just let us know and I will do what I can to do what I can. But right now, I'm just going to take a short commercial break. These bottles, incidentally, are available at totaljoyrider.com. I have changed the picture that is on the bottles, but like with everything at totaljoyrider.com, it's all fully customizable. So if you've got a boat and you want your sail numbers, your sail colors, all of that on anything at all, just send me an email and I can put it together. I'll put it together and there's no obligation to follow through if you decide you don't like it. Yeah, too, I think we should have some elevator music at that point. Anyway, all right, I've got one last preloaded question, and this is a favorite. Just came in today in response to the speed stick final results video that went up yesterday. And this is from Steve, who said, I'm going to add to his question a bit to make it a bit more juicy. What is the potential top speed for, pardon me, a Hobie 16? All right. So we know, well, I know from my experience, the Hobie 16 is definitely capable of 26 knots. No word, no question about it. And the top space on this year's speed stick was at 27.5 knot, absolute mind blower of a big speed. But the guy who did that big speed said at that time, they were basically sailing down a cliff like wave. So going really downhill. And to be honest, I think when you're going at a real angle, like straight down, anything is possible. But for top speed, I would say, this is controversial, I know, because of the shape of the hulls of the Hobie 16, combined with the low aspect sail plan, so the power is coming from low down, there is actually no top speed of a Hobie 16 apart from the ability to stay in control. Just going to draw a picture, if I may. All right. So this is what I've decided, because the 16 is obviously just 16 feet long, and it shouldn't be that quick. So I had to come up with something to justify why the Hobie 16 is so fast. As you might be aware, a windsurf board, how far can we go? Like there. Okay, that's a good picture. A windsurf board does what we call planing, which means the speed of the board is actually fast enough to overtake its bow wave and start surfing down its own bow wave and start skimming on the surface because of the flat bottom that it has. All right. So why am I saying that? It's because that is the reason why I believe the Hobie 16 is fast, is because the Hobie 16 has got a perfectly flat outside to the hull. So if we have the hull like this, which is going to be lifted slightly, perfectly flat. But granted, it's not flat on the water like a windsurf board. But instead, what it's doing is it's cutting in a certain amount, like it'll cut into about here. Let's really use the resources that we've got available. So the water would be like here. And then what we're actually doing, this is all pushing in this direction. The pressure is pushing in this direction. So we're pushing the hull against the water here. And when we get the boat really cooking, it will actually start, in my opinion, planing, but at this angle. So as it's planing, the hull is getting lifted up this way. Not so the front is coming up like with a surfboard, but so that the front is coming up, but on a diagonal kind of plane. Does this make any sense at all? Does this even sound viable? I think it does, because otherwise, what is the reason that the 16 is so quick? Some people will say it's because of the jib. I say no, it's not because of the jib, because you can take the jib off and it will still go very quickly. Sorry for any jib lovers out there, but that is what I'm saying. So it is planing, but in here. And as this is pushing, we're going to be creating a bit of a space here. So it gives it room to lift. And just because it's not lifting straight up, does that mean it's not planing? I think it is planing, but planing on its side. Drop the mic. All right, there we go. That is what I think about why the Hobie 16 is so quick. And I think flat water, 27 knots is doable, but it really does. It's that ability to stay in control, which is the juiciness of the whole question. And part of that is the rudder blades. How fast can the rudder blades actually go before they stop working properly? But as we know, with the EPO 3 rudder blades, they are very quick rudder blades. And I think that is what has unlocked the door for me personally to go faster on the 16. So there we go. I'll say realistically, flat water, 27 knots is the top realistic speed. But I'll let you know when I go faster than that. No sound. You are kidding. No sound. Really? I'm just going to carry on because everything here is telling me that the sound is all right. But anyway, it's pretty much time to wrap this up. Can somebody else either confirm or not confirm? Sound is back. All right. I hear you. All right. Thanks for that. I was worried about the lack of sound. All right. Chris asks, what is in the bottle? Yeah, not particularly exciting, I'm afraid. It's just water with some electrolytes, which I do one tablet each day because I drink a lot of water. And apparently, if you drink a lot of water without some sort of additive in the water, you can actually reduce the necessary minerals in your body or something like that. All right, we've got Biker Wookie. All right, how you doing? Great to have you on board. All right, when sailing downwind, how do you decide on more weight to windward or more weight down and sail deeper to maximize VMG, racing a Hurricane 5.9? This is a great question. Thanks for tuning in there, Biker Wookie. All right, so we've got no sound in Oregon. I would say that Oregon has got a problem with his speakers, if it's all right for everyone else. Now, what would we do? So I'm actually having to think about this question, because this is the same as what we're doing on the Tornado, but as a kind of rule of a general rule of thumb is, if we've been double trapezing upwind, then on the downwind leg, when we're flying the spinnaker, we'll have the crew out on the trapeze, because once we've got the crew out on the trapeze, the amount of extra boat speed that we're gaining, the Hurricane 5.9, by the way, for those of you who don't know, is very similar to the Tornado. So as soon as we've got that ability to make that extra speed by getting out on the trapeze, it's worth getting your crew out on the trapeze, because then with that extra speed, you'll actually end up sailing at a pretty similar angle than you would have been anyway. What the extra speed is really good for as well when sailing downwind with a kite up is it will power you through any lulls in the wind. Whereas if you're really going for as deep as possible, hull in the air, wild thing sort of style, if there is a lull, you're going to get punished. And that punishment on the downwind leg is going to last a lot longer because you're not going as fast. Whereas if you're going for speed, then you're not going to be sat in that hole for very long. You're going to power through, maybe just head up a little bit, going into a lull, power through the lull, and then as you were. That is if you've been double trapezing upwind. And then when to move the crew from the leeward side up to the windward side on the trampoline, I would say once you've got the hull in the air constantly and the crew is getting just so much water in their face, that is the polite time to allow them up onto the officer's deck. There we go. I hope that helps to some degree. I have to think about that. I'm not, yeah. Okay. All right. We've got Frank there at St. Catherine's Multi-Hull Club, Canada. Great Show Us Your Cat, episode 119. Oh, yes. Glad you enjoyed it. All right. And all right. Alfred says VMG is one of my biggest challenges as well. It's quite a new cat sailor. I sail a Hobie 20 with no spinnaker. Yeah, it is a tricky one. If you're sailing downwind with no spinnaker, then I would keep the crew on the leeward side all of the time on the downwind if you're going deep. There are times when getting a bit more speed on is going to be better, like perhaps depending on the sea state, but generally speaking, getting the crew on the leeward side and then getting that windward hull lifted a bit and getting deeper downwind is going to be beneficial to you, rather than putting the crew on the windward side, which means without a spinnaker, you're going to have to head up a significant amount to justify, to get the speed that you need to have your crew up there with you. Unless it is, of course, extremely windy. All right. Frank says, make a gybe in high wind. How do you do it without pitch poling? All right. This is going to be the last question. So no further questions, please. We've been going for just coming up to 1 hour, and that's enough, I find. So this is, of course, one of my favorites. Oh, Scott's got his sound back. Welcome back, Scott. Glad that that you're back with. We're back with you. Okay, so the windy gybe. It's all about the timing and confidence. I think those are the two big ingredients in the high wind gybe. So timing first. The time when you want to go for the high wind gybe is just after a gust. The faster we can go into a gybe, the less pressure we're going to have in the rig which is trying to force the bows down when the sail comes across. So we want to start off by sailing at the correct angle. So as we should know, if we don't know this, there are several videos on this topic, as I'm sure you could guess. We want to have our apparent wind flying straight across the boat at 90 degrees. So we've got the true wind coming from here, our induced wind that we're creating by going forwards, and we're sailing on the apparent wind, which on the downwind should be coming across the boat at 90 degrees. That is where we want to start the gybe from, because that is the best, talking of VMG, best VMG on our course for downwind sailing. Any wind strength, granted I haven't done this goose winging test yet, but any wind strength, traditional catamaran sailing, no spinnaker, that is the angle. So 90 degrees. And then ideally what we want to do, here's the procedure. We want to wait for a gust. When we get the gust, let's change color. When we get the gust, what's going to happen is the boat speed is going to increase much more than the actual strength of the gust. So this induced wind is going to get bigger, which means these tapes are going to come back. Our apparent wind is going to come back, which means for keeping the apparent wind the same, we need to turn a bit more downwind. So we're gonna have a new course after that gust. The new course is going to be like this, and this is a win-win for the gybe, because what it's doing, we're going faster, but also we've got a smaller angle that we have to turn through before we get the boat where the wind is directly behind us. So that means we're not going to lose much speed going into the gybe. And then what I also find really works well is just before you're about to go in, bring your traveller in to about halfway between the center and the outer limit. And by bringing the traveller in, what that means is the mainsail is going to go across earlier. And that's what we're trying to encourage. The earlier that the mainsail goes across, it means we've still got loads of speed when the mainsail goes across. Whereas if you have the main light out like it is in this picture out here, we're going to have to be pretty much turned to the other side of the wind before it will go across, which probably means you're going to be very slow by the time it comes across, which means it's going to be coming across with a real slam, and it's that slam which is going to force the bows down, perhaps putting you into that pitch pole situation. So timing, get the gust, turn more downwind on the gust, keeping your telltales at 90 degrees, bring the traveller in a bit, and then the confidence is just to go for it, give it a good rate of turn on the rudders, and then don't straighten up until just after the sail has come across. This is very important, the confidence part. If you straighten up before the sail comes across, then we're into this situation again where the boat is going to slow down, rig is going to load up with pressure, and that means when the sail does go across, going to force the bows down, and oh dear, bad times are here again. All right, just a little bit of that. All right. Yeah, so Frank adds there using both the main and the jib sheet. It really doesn't make much difference. I would say if you're single-handed with the jib, just make sure the jib is in the correct position before going into the gybe, not oversheeted. An oversheeted jib will slow you down to some degree, and we want to go into the gybe with loads of speed. That is the real key here. Yeah, so having the jib, not really much of a consideration. It's all about these points which we have just mentioned. All right, so there we go, Frank. I hope that helps. I hope that helps everyone. I think the high wind jibe is a very exciting time for any catamaran sailor, and it is so satisfying when you get a good one. And by this part with the, I think I did a video last year on high wind jibing without capsizing, where I went through a lot of high wind jibes, and that was really special. Really special. Just check that one out. All right. So Chris says catamaran sailing for the 90s should be mandatory reading. I think you should Google that right now. I think I'll be Googling that right now as well. I haven't read that. All right. Loyal's in with a question for next week. Yeah, I'm not going to do any more questions now today because we've gone up to our time constraint. So I'll put that into next week's Q&A there, Loyal. Thanks for that. Lee says, got to roll out. As always, thanks for your great instructions. See you next time. See you, Lee. From Rhymes with Bacon. Thanks, Macon. Rhymes with Bacon. All right. Thanks very much, Frank. Thanks, Toot. And thanks to everybody else for tuning in. And thanks to all of you who are supporting Joyrider TV on Patreon, especially. It's really nice to have your support there. There's been, especially like the Q&A, not the Q&A, the speed stick video, that took the best part of a day to put together. Although you might think this looks a bit like it's just been thrown together. No, almost a day's work to put that together. And there's not much that comes back from this stuff. So I really do appreciate all the support that I'm getting. So thank you very much. And thanks very much for joining us for the Q&A. I'll be back next week at the new time of 5:30 Greek time. So that's half an hour later than it has been. And until then, just got a video coming on Sunday, which is, do you want to work on the Wildwind Beach? Oh, yes, you do. So you should check one out. And other than that, there will be some more stuff coming soon, of course. All right. But that is all. Ron, thanks for your question, but I'm going to put it into next week's session because I've run out of time now for today. So there we go. Thanks very much. See you soon with some more on Joyrider TV. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Scott. Yes, I do too. Oh, yes.